Virgo, you have been moving not dramatically, not with announcement or performance or the specific kind of forward motion that requires an audience to validate that the motion is real. In the quiet, methodical, entirely characteristic Virgo way of someone who has assessed a situation, reached a conclusion, and begun the process of redirecting their energy away from what has not been meeting them and toward what actually might. The moving has been happening in the interior first, in the slow but inevitable way of a tide that has been pulling back from a particular shore for long enough that the shore is beginning to notice the recession, and they are noticing. The person this reading is about has a problem, and the problem is not complicated in its structure, even though the experience of it for them is quite uncomfortable. The problem is this: they understood at some level that they were perhaps not fully honest with themselves about that you would always be there. Not consciously, not as a declared belief that they would have defended if someone had pressed them on it, but in the practiced, habitual, taken for granted way of someone who has become so accustomed to a particular thing being present in their landscape that they have stopped accounting for the possibility of its absence. And your absence has begun. Not the total, permanent, door shut kind yet, but the specific, unmistakable quality of someone whose energy has been quietly, steadily, finally redirecting away from a person who did not meet them with the quality they deserved. The energetic pulling back that precedes the physical. The internal departure that comes before the external one has been formally announced. They can feel it, and it is producing the specific, slightly panicked quality of someone whose assumptions about availability are being revised by direct experience of its withdrawal. Let me walk you through what the cards confirmed. Let me describe what I felt the moment this energy opened, because there were two distinct streams of impression, and both matter for understanding the full picture. From your side, I felt movement, clean, directed, forward movement, not the anxious, reactive movement of someone who is running from something, but the specific, grounded, I know where I am going quality of someone who has been in a particular place long enough and who is now, with complete internal authority, choosing a different direction. The kind of movement that feels quiet from the inside, but that is unmistakable from the outside to anyone paying attention. From their side, I felt the specific, slightly cold quality of realization arriving. The specific drop in temperature that happens when something you have been taking for granted begins to reveal itself as not permanent. The specific quality of recognizing in the gut rather than in the mind that a threshold may have been crossed that cannot simply be uncrossed by deciding to pay attention now. The first card in this reading arrived in the position representing your actual energetic state in this dynamic, who you are and where you actually are in relation to this person and this situation. And I want to describe it with honesty, because the honesty is what makes it useful. This card shows a figure walking away from a spilled landscape, moving toward what remains whole rather than continuing to stand in front of what has been lost. The water element of this suit governs genuine feeling and authentic emotional experience, and this card, with its 5 spilled cups and its 2 standing ones and its figure in active forward motion, describes exactly the specific state you are in. You have grieved what was not going to be. You have looked honestly at what this person was and was not offering, at what the dynamic between you actually was, rather than what you hoped it was or what it occasionally seemed to gesture toward. And you have made the specific internal quiet decision to stop organizing your life and your energy around someone who was not meeting you with the quality of engagement that you deserve and that you have always known you deserve. The two standing cups, the ones remaining, are the part of your life that you are moving toward. And I am sensing that this forward orientation toward what is whole rather than toward what has spilled is producing something in the quality of your daily experience that is quite different from the quality of the period when you were still primarily oriented toward this person and toward the hope of what might develop between you. You are already beginning to feel the difference, the relief of not carrying what you were carrying, the specific, quiet spaciousness of having redirected your attention toward your own life and your own trajectory, the sense of your own forward movement having clarity rather than the blurred quality of someone who is simultaneously trying to move forward and keep a door open for something behind them. The second card arrived in the position representing what this person is currently experiencing as you move. And I want to describe this honestly because I think you deserve to understand what is actually happening in them. This card shows a figure enclosed by 8 swords standing upright around them, blindfolded, in the specific posture of someone who is not imprisoned by any external constraint, but by the specific self-imposed limitation of not being willing or able to see what is directly in front of them. This is the card of someone who has been operating in a state of restricted vision, of deliberate or habitual blindness to something that has been there to be seen all along. What I am reading in this card about what this person is experiencing is something I want to name specifically. They are now in the process of having the blindfold removed by the force of your departure. What they were not willing to see while you were fully available to them, which is the specific, irreplaceable quality of what you bring, and what they were choosing not to prioritize is becoming visible to them now through the direct experience of its withdrawal. This is how it tends to work with this particular card. The blindfold does not usually come off through someone explaining to the person what they are missing. It comes off through the direct experience of loss, through the specific quality of something no longer being there and the person finally being forced by the absence to see what was present that they were not fully registering. What they are seeing now, in the early stages of seeing it, is genuinely uncomfortable for them. Not comfortable, manageable discomfort. The specific, slightly urgent quality of someone who has caught sight of something important too late and who is now beginning to understand the implications of the timing. Does this feel like it is describing something real in your actual experience, Virgo? The quiet, internal quality of your own energy pulling back from someone who did not meet you appropriately, and the sense that they are beginning to register the withdrawal in a way they were not registering your presence when you were more fully available? Let me know in the comments. The third card arrived in the position representing what specifically about your leaving is producing the problem this reading's title describes. And I want to be precise because the precision matters. This card shows a figure at the absolute pinnacle of the earth element's expression, the fullest possible embodiment of genuine, substantive, material, and practical value and mastery. This is the card of someone who has been assessed accurately by a perceiver who is finally, belatedly, completely seeing what they have been in the presence of. What I am reading in this card about what you're leaving is revealing to this person is something I want to say directly. They are understanding through the specific mechanism of your withdrawal what you actually are. Not the version of you that was available when you were trying, not the version that was patiently present through the period when they were not meeting you well. The actual version, the full, uncompromised, what you actually bring version that is now organizing its life and its energy around its own direction rather than around them. And what they're seeing is that you are irreplaceable in the specific, embodied, direct experience way of someone who is not working this out intellectually, but who is feeling the specific gap that your withdrawal is creating in their actual daily experience. The gap does not match anything that can simply be filled by someone else. It has the specific shape of you, and the specific shape of you is not one that exists in equivalent form elsewhere, which is what they are now in the direct experience of understanding. I want to speak to something about the specific nature of what they are understanding and why the timing of the understanding is so uncomfortable. Understanding what you had when it was present and adjusting accordingly to honor it properly is the version of this story that leads somewhere productive. Understanding what you had only through its absence is the version that tends to arrive too late to change the direction of what has already been set in motion. They are in the second version. The understanding is real and genuine. The timing of it means it is primarily serving as the specific, uncomfortable accounting that follows a significant failure to value something while it was present rather than as useful intelligence that can redirect behavior in time to make a difference. That is the specific quality of their problem. And it is the kind of problem that cannot be solved by simply reaching towards you now. Because what would receive that reaching is a very different version of you than the one they had access to before. Inhale with me, Virgo, because the fourth card is the one that describes what this situation is costing them specifically, and I want you to receive it with the grounded clarity it deserves rather than with the complicated guilt that sometimes accompanies learning that someone is suffering as a result of your healthy forward movement. This card shows a figure lying still in the posture of a complete and comprehensive ending, the specific imagery of something that has run all the way out of road. The sword suit and the number of fullness combined create the specific picture of a mental ending, a point where a particular narrative or set of assumptions has been pushed to its absolute limit and has nowhere further to go in its current form. What I am sensing in this card about what this person is experiencing is something I want to name carefully and without the framing that makes it your responsibility to fix. The narrative they have been telling themselves about you and about your dynamic and about what your presence in their life meant and meant for them. The version where you were available and patient and would continue to be available and patient, and where their relationship to that availability did not require them to do anything differently. That narrative has just hit the wall. Not because you did anything wrong, because you finally stopped doing something right, which is making yourself available to a situation that was not meeting you appropriately. And the hitting of that wall is producing in this person the specific disorienting quality of a major story about their life suddenly requiring revision. The ending this card depicts is not your ending. It is the ending of their assumption about you. And the ending of that assumption is going to require them to confront something uncomfortable that the assumption had been protecting them from confronting. I want to address something specific about how Virgo tends to feel in the midst of a quiet, healthy departure like the one this reading is describing, because I think naming it accurately is more useful than either dramatizing it or minimizing it. You are not entirely comfortable. even though your forward movement is healthy and appropriate and long overdue, even though you have made a genuine, grounded decision about redirecting your energy, there is still something in the Virgo nature that does not quite allow the complete guilt-free experience of moving on from someone who is now suffering from the consequences of not having valued you appropriately when they had the chance. Your fairness instinct keeps running the analysis, wondering if you missed something that would have produced a different picture, considering whether there is something you could have done differently. The specific, slightly exhausting fairness of someone who, even in the midst of healthy departure, is still running the retrospective assessment to make sure the conclusion was correct. The conclusion was correct. The evidence that the conclusion was correct is precisely what this person is currently experiencing. If your departure were wrong, they would be relieved. They are not relieved. They are alarmed. An alarm at the departure of someone is the specific involuntary acknowledgement of what that person's presence was actually worth. Trust your movement. It is right. The discomfort you may feel at their discomfort is the sign of your good character, not the sign that you should turn around. I want to say something else about this particular quality of discomfort because I think naming it prevents it from being misread as a signal to reverse course. Virgo's fairness extends even to people who have not been fair to them. It is part of why you are genuinely admirable and genuinely rare. But it also means that the experience of watching someone suffer the consequences of their own choices in relation to you can produce in you a quality of guilt that does not actually belong to you. The suffering is the consequence of their choices, not of your response to their choices. You choosing to stop accepting less than you deserve is not the cause of their suffering. Their having offered less than you deserved is the cause. The distinction is important, and I want you to hold it clearly. The fifth card arrived in the position of what your forward movement is opening into, what becomes available in the landscape ahead of you as the energy that was going in their direction becomes available for other uses. And I want to describe it with the warmth it genuinely carries. This card shows the figure of movement in its most complete, triumphant, full sun expression, standing at a high point in the blazing, uncomplicated light of genuine embodied arrival. This is not the aspirational version of someone. This is the arrived version. The one who has moved through what needed to be moved through and who is now inhabiting the specific alive quality of someone who is exactly where they should be. What I am sensing this card is describing for what your forward movement is opening into is something I want to say simply. The version of your life that becomes available when your energy is no longer organized around someone who was not meeting you is considerably more alive than the version you have been living. Not because the other version was unbearable, but because there is a specific quality of aliveness of your own trajectory expressing itself fully, of your own forward momentum operating without the drag of a situation that was requiring energy, without returning proportionate value, that is genuinely, substantively, daily texture different from what you have been in. That quality is approaching. It is, in fact, already beginning. The movement you are in is the beginning of arriving there. I also want to speak to something about what the full sun of this card tends to produce in the daily lived experience of someone who is inhabiting it. There is a quality of waking up that is different. of the first awareness of the day being lighter than it has been during the period when a significant amount of your forward attention was being occupied by the question of this person and this situation. The specific weight that comes from maintaining orientation towards something that is not returning, the orientation appropriately produces a quality of heaviness in daily experience that you have perhaps been so habituated to that you will only fully register its absence once it has lifted. That lifting is beginning. The quality of your mornings is going to change, is perhaps already changing. And that change, while quiet, is one of the most significant available indicators of whether a decision was right. Right decisions tend to make mornings lighter. Before I close, I want to say something about the word forever in the title of this reading, because I think it deserves honest engagement rather than the dramatic reading it invites. Forever in this context does not mean you will never encounter this person again, or that the universe has made some permanent declaration about the topology of your future. Forever in this context means that the specific version of you who was available to this person in this specific dynamic, the version who was patient beyond what the situation warranted, who remained oriented toward them through a period that did not adequately honor that orientation, who kept the door more open than the situation deserved, that version of you is not coming back. That version was a specific configuration of your energy in response to a specific situation, and it does not survive the healthy redirection you have made. What exists going forward is you moving, building, becoming, oriented toward your own trajectory and toward the people and opportunities that actually meet you at the level you operate at. The person this reading is about has a problem. The problem is that what they let go of, or more precisely, what they failed to hold with the quality of care it deserved, was something rare and real and specific to you. And the discovering of what was actually there, now that the discovery is being made through absence rather than through presence, is going to take some time to fully absorb. That absorption is theirs to do. Your direction is yours to keep moving in. If this reading named something you have been living through, the quiet, internal quality of your own energy redirecting away from someone who did not meet you appropriately, and the sense of them beginning to register the withdrawal in a way that feels very different from how they registered your presence, please share it with a Virgo who might be in the same quiet departure and who needs to hear that the moving is right, and leave a comment. I want to hear what this reading is landing on for you. I read every single comment, and I hold what is shared in this space with genuine care long after this video ends. Until next time, Virgo, you have been moving quietly, correctly, finally. They have a problem because of it. That problem is theirs to navigate. Your direction is forward. Keep going.